Van Hollen. Elected to the Senate in 2016, Senator Van Hollen has been a tireless fighter for the people of Maryland and has built a reputation known for working hard to find common sense solutions to difficult national issues. Senator Van Hollen started his time in public service as a member of the Maryland State Legislature, where he became known as a tenacious advocate for everyday Marylanders and someone who was unafraid to take on powerful special interests on behalf of working people. In 2002, he was elected to represent Maryland's 8th Congressional District. In the House of Representatives, he served as a member of the Democratic leadership and was elected by his colleagues to be the ranking member of the House Budget Committee. Today, he serves on the Senate Appropriations Committee and is the chair of its Financial Services and General Government Appropriations Subcommittee. Welcome, Senator Van Hollen.
Well, thank you, Annie. And let me start by apologizing for being a little late. Lots of things going on, including the budget, but I was at a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing on Ukraine and the Russian war against Ukraine. But I very much was looking forward and to talking with all of you and really thanking the CDFI community for all you do to make sure that we provide the lending and capital necessary at the grassroots neighborhood level to make sure that we build a more inclusive society, more inclusive economy with more shared prosperity. And as I see it, CDFIs are an essential part of that effort. And I'm pleased that we have 13 CDFIs in the state of Maryland and also hundreds more around the country. One of the presidents of Maryland CDFI testified a number of months back in front of the Banking and Housing Committee on which I serve. That's Ms. Watson Harris Bruce, who's the head of the Baltimore Community Lending CDFI. And I just wanted to highlight her comments because I thought they reflected beautifully what the mission of CDFIs are and why we need to make sure that we provide CDFIs with the support and resources that they need. And she highlighted the fact that CDFIs do the work that many big banks do not. Many big financial institutions are focused exclusively on their bottom line and don't necessarily have a lot of time to deal with customers who are not already experienced in financial ways. And CDFIs, in fact, work very closely with their customers. All of you do. You get to know them, you get to know their dreams, and you work with them on technical aspects that are necessary to make sure that they can succeed. As Ms. Bruce said in her Senate testimony, quote, "I have a passion for working with people, not just numbers." And I think that captures the essence of CDFIs. And whether it's dealing with bringing more grocery stores with healthier food and eliminating food deserts, or whether it's alternatives to investing in low income and investing in low income housing, CDFIs are on the front lines. In fact, I hosted a roundtable as well last year in Maryland of CDFIs to get their input. And I think based on that experience, the experience many of my colleagues have also had, we were moved last December to include the 12 billion, not a year ago December, to include the emergency funds for CDFIs as part of that COVID relief legislation. And as you know, that provided $12 billion to CDFIs and other minority depository institutions in the $9 billion in the Emergency Capital Investment Program to deliver low-cost, long-term capital investments to MDIs and CDFIs that are depository institutions, As all of you, I'm sure, are well aware, applications for those funds closed last year, and U.S. Treasury will be announcing the individual investments amounts in the coming weeks. And $3 billion went to the emergency support efforts through the CDFI fund, including the financial assistance grants, as well as the other grants up to $1.2 billion for minority lending institutions. So as you can see, as you well know, I think Congress on a bipartisan basis is a big believer in your important work. And in fact, I'm now working with Senator Brian Schatz to create a $2 billion CDFI crisis fund so that CDFIs can immediately respond to two kinds of crises, either economic meltdowns or natural disasters. We saw CDFIs really step up to the plate as part of the Paycheck Protection Program. I think it took Congress a couple rounds to make sure that we got more of the funding to where it was needed most. But CDFIs really proved their ability to provide funds to our small business community and others during that important moment when COVID was threatening the existence of so many small businesses. Let me end just by talking about funding for this year, because I spoke about the emergency funds that were provided. But of course, your challenge, your mandate is to strengthen our economy and neighborhoods, whether we're in an emergency or not. And in many of these areas and neighborhoods, we already had an economic emergency even before the pandemic hit. So I've been pushing to increase the funding amounts for CDFIs. We had a hearing in the subcommittee that I chair. I chair the Appropriations Subcommittee on Financial Services and General Government, which is the subcommittee that provides funding to the Treasury Department and the CDFI fund. We had a hearing that included the Deputy Assistant Treasury Secretary, Noel Poyo. We had Joseph Haskins, who's the chairman of Harbor Bank in Baltimore. And we had Andy Anderson, who's the president of the Bank of Anguilla in Mississippi. And I think you can see from the representation there, both a rural bank in Mississippi and an urban bank in Baltimore, that CDFIs really span the entire spectrum of need when it comes to community-based lending. So we are working to try to increase the CDFI funds this year. I put a very big increase for CDFIs in the Senate Appropriations bill that we set forward here in the Senate. I will say that because our overall level of all domestic spending was dramatically cut as part of the negotiation to have an omnibus bill, the large increase I hope for, we're not able to do. So we have the good news and the bad news. The good news is that we're not going to a continuing resolution, which would have just straight lined prior year funding for CDFIs. On the other hand, we're not going to see as large an increase in the funding for CDFIs that I have hoped. This is a priority, and so I can say, and again, until the ink is dry on this, we won't have any final announcements. But I can say that while most budgets, agencies may have seen somewhere to like between a 3, 4, 5% increase, the CDFI funding increase over last year's will be in more the range of 9%. Again, as Yogi Berra said, it ain't over till it's over, but we're hoping again for a significant increase, not what I had wanted, and I'm sure what many of you wanted, but still under the circumstances, a whole lot better than simply straight lining last year's budget amount. So Let me stop there. Happy to try and answer any questions. Let me again close where I started, which is thanking all of you for the important work you do to empower people at the community level and help provide both the technical assistance and the resources to grow our economy and make sure that we do build an economy that works for everybody.
Thank you so much, Senator Van Hollen. Thank you for your support. You clearly understand what our sector is and what we're trying to do, and we really appreciate it. The $12 billion that was appropriated is a game changer for the CDFI sector. And as you know, we're going to leverage that money 10 or 12 times over to have and to continue to have the impact. And we know that, we appreciate your tireless efforts to get us to $1 billion in annual funding, because we know our communities need it. We know that, and I think we did prove our value through the pandemic, and particularly in the Paycheck Protection Program, where we showed our muscle in terms of getting to the last mile, and that we are structurally built to get to the last mile. So I am going to take questions now from the audience. If you could put your questions in the chat, that would be very much appreciated. So we'll give a minute for that.
Looks like there's one question from, looks like Bob Raposa has one.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm seeing the questions.
It's okay, it's in the Q&A. I can read it for you.
Yes, thank
Senator
you.
Van Hollen, do you have a prediction as to when we will see the omnibus? Thanks for your support of CDFIs.
Well, as you may know, the current continuing resolution expires midnight on Friday, and so our goal is still to wrap it up by that time. In the event that we're coming a little short, you can always try to pass a continuing resolution for another 48 hours or whatever time is necessary for breathing room. But our goal remains this Friday at midnight, and I can tell you that folks were up till 6 a.m. last night trying to put the finishing touches on the bill so that it can get printed, it can get put on the internet, and that the House could vote on it probably as early as tomorrow, we hope, and then we take it up in the Senate and finish it up. Again, the goal was by midnight on Friday, and many would hope to do it even before then. But the good news is that there were moments in the last couple months where I worried that we would end up with a continuing resolution. We have a big block of senators who were unfortunately prepared to allow the budget to just go on automatic pilot continuing resolution, which means that we have no changes that reflect new priorities. But anyway, the good news is we seem to have been able to get together at least enough votes. Well, we hope we'll see by Friday midnight to get the omnibus done.
Thank you, Senator Van Hollen. I have another question for you. In this era of hyper partisanship, I think that CDFIs have been one area where we've maintained a modicum of collaboration and consensus around the value of what it is we do. What is your advice going forward in terms of what we should be doing to make sure that our message continues to resonate across a broad spectrum? You mentioned, in the testimony, and I saw this as a CDFI fund director as well. When I went around the country, I went to Kotzebue, Alaska, which is 33 miles above the Arctic Circle. And I went to, McAllen, Texas, which is on the border. And of course, places like New York City and Chicago and Los Angeles and Detroit, and rural areas like Kentucky and the Mississippi Delta, and in indigenous America as well. It doesn't matter where you go, this model works. So do you have any advice for us in terms of how we should be thinking about positioning ourselves for the future so that that message doesn't get thrown into a partisan abyss?
Well, Annie, I think you're exactly right with your assessment of the bipartisan support for CDFIs. And we do need to work proactively to maintain that bipartisan support. I think it means continuing to reach out, as you have been, to members of the House and the Senate, and bringing in, whenever you can, your members from their states or congressional districts that do reflect the great diversity of our country. And as you indicated, you've got CDFIs in rural areas and suburban areas and urban areas. And I mentioned at our hearing, we had the head of Harbor Bank in Baltimore and the head of a bank in Anguilla, Mississippi. And I worked, with closely on this issue with my ranking member, Cindy Hyde-Smith, senator from Mississippi. So we were able to, come together on CDFIs because you have proven, I think, how important you are to that really local and inclusive economic development. And if you keep doing what you're doing, just don't let your foot off the pedal. Then I think that we can continue to maintain this coalition.
Well, that sounds like really solid advice, Senator Van Hollen. And thank you again. We're at the end of our time, but we know your time is precious. We appreciate you spending some of it with us, and we appreciate your continued support.
Well, thank you. And thank you, all your colleagues. It's great to be with you.
Thank you.